Hello, lit students! We are ready for our next essay, and it's actually going to be on a play, Raisin in the Sun. So go to your canvas, and we're going to check out where it says Raisin in the Sun, and download this PowerPoint, a little bit of background on Raisin in the Sun. So let's check that out. So here is our play. Raisin in the Sun, written by Lorraine Hansberry, which, of course, our play was adapted to the stage, to the screen, which we're going to see. And a little bit of info was completed in 1957. And interestingly, was the first performance opened in Broadway in 1959. And here is our playwright, Lorraine Hansberry. Miss Hansberry, where's her picture right there? And as you can see, she only lived to 35, but left us with her work. And Raisin in the Sun is her more well known work. And a little bit of background for her parents. She was the granddaughter of a freed slave, lived in Chicago till college. Just like our story takes place in Chicago. These are her schools where she went to school, married him for a bit. I skip it because it's really not that important to the background of our play. So these are some of Miss Lorraine Hansberry's works, and got the New York Drama Critics Circle Award in '59 for Raising the Sun, as well as a special award at the Cannes Film Festival for Raisin in the Sun for the screenplay. This was in '61. Parents were involved in the Black community in Chicago. Now, this is important because I'm going to tell you something that she lived through that impacted a lot of what we see in the play Raising the Sun. So, uh, of course, as a result of Jim Crow, there, even though they were in Chicago, which is not the South, there was still something called restrictive covenants or redlining, which meant that certain neighborhoods only white people could live in, black people could not live in, and of course, it's not legal, but it was done all the time. And Hansberry's family actually made it all the way to the Supreme Court. Their case, Hansberry versus Lee, um, because they had moved into an all-white neighborhood, and of course the case made it all the way to the Supreme Court about this redlining. So she had to endure this very uncomfortable moments of teasing and harassment, and so this important thing that she lived in really impacts what we see in the play. So because of redlining, the certain areas, in this case in Chicago, where white people live and then black people were segregated, right? So into the south side of Chicago. Here's some pictures of south side Chicago in the 50s. A little bit of info. As you can see, more rundown. And the white suburbs of Chicago, um, they reflected these attitudes. We want white towns. They're like really a celebration. Um, It's powerful, right? Here they had written a black family. Let's see it. It's tough to look at, right? But it's a historical moment, and it shapes our story. So, the Raisin in the Sun comes from a poem by Langston Hughes, who was an important poet of the Harlem Renaissance, and it's from his poem called Harlem, in 1950. A poem called Harlem, and this is the poem. What happens to a dream deferred? So defer is postpone or push back. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? So this whole idea of we have a dream, we have something that we really want, and if it is postponed time and time again, what happens to that fire, that desire, the exigency that we want to that uh, accomplish a certain dream, right? So in the play, we see this notion of a dream deferred time and time again across the different characters, and it comes from this poem. What happens with these dreams when they're continually pushed back, right? This poem, of course, some of the themes, there's discrimination, sexist attitudes. So she kept writing, but this was her most important play. Only 34 was done. Now, we're left with her work. This is the play itself. I've actually uploaded for you, if you want to look at it, a little bit about its history. So, one thing to note is that we have different characters. Now they're called the Youngers. Let me show you their names. Here we go. So they're the Youngers. So we have Mama, who's the matriarch, who was actually part of what was called the Great Migration, which is that Black Americans moved mainly north, moved away from the south, moved to these larger cities where there wasn't the same Jim Crow laws for opportunities of a better life, of work, of better. They weren't as disenfranchised as say like in the south. So, anyways, Mama came fleeing to Chicago as part of that Great Migration, and her and their husband. So, anyways, what happens in the play? Of course, the younger family. We have Mama. We have Walter, who is the son of Mama, and we have also Benny, who's her sister, and Ruth, who's the wife of Walter, Travis, who's the son of Walter and and Ruth, and here's some other characters. But pay attention as you're watching the film adaptation to this whole idea of a dream deferred, how each of the dreams are pushed back, right? Here it is in the play if you wanted to look at it like in text. So I have uploaded that. And this is our discussion board, right? It's like what things stand out to you from the play, what topic or themes catch your attention the most. So if I was you, I were gonna watch the film, take notes about things that you notice, whether that is particular quotes or something that is happening that stands out to you. Take notes. I would recommend that. For our essay, I want to show you the prompt. Those dates. I'll have the correct dates. But for this one, it is more open. We You can choose a certain topic to write on. Here's some ideas. This idea of a dream deferred, right? How Racing the Sun reflects this, or maybe another idea of the symbolism in Mama's plant. Here's just some different ideas. Or maybe even one could be how we see this idea of redlining in the play. Here's just different ideas. You can choose from these, or you can create your own topic idea. Or if you want to, you can just say, what is the takeaway theme or message that the play leaves us with? How does it do that? And why is that message important? How does it connect to real life, right? So a little bit of the info, 1,500 words minimum, and pay attention to our dates. Points would be the same, 100 for the essay, 24 for workshop, having 1 LA, correct 5. Uh, and of course, make sure to convert to doc.x or PDF. Don't have the animated paper. Here's the rubric. That is our prompt. And I want to actually show you our outline. So let's check this out here. Oh, there we go. Excellent. So here's what our outline looks like. So what is a theme or topic that you're interested in that you want to focus on? We need seeds support this, what characters are most relevant to it. And then the thesis, right? You want to make your claim or argument. Maybe you're focused on say mama's plant and how that represents maybe like the hope that still exists despite the difficult situation. Whatever you're going to write about, make this in your thesis. And then the rest is how will you introduce it? So how will you introduce the topic? Give a little bit of background and your thesis, and then your body paragraph. So, what will the main idea be of your paragraph? What will you use from the play to support that? And analysis is how you will use that. So, just some ideas for body paragraphs, how you'll conclude it. So, this is the worksheet for that. Please pay attention to our deadlines for our essay. Enjoy. I think I forgot to mention one last thing. Not apologies. Okay. You might be saying, hey, you mentioned a film adaptation. What is it that I'm going to watch? Well, here is the link. Make sure that you watch the 1961 adaptation of it with Sidney Poitier. Here's the link. You can rent it for like $3 or buy it for like $10, or probably your local library will carry it. And I'm going to show you the link. Sidney Poitier. This one. Make sure you watch this one. This is Sidney Poitier. All right, guys. I recommend watching it with a notebook and take some notes. Happy writing, yo.